This is not one of your supporters. An outright enemy of yours, Allah explains, لَعَلَّهُ يَتَذَكَّرُ أَوْ يَخْشَى. That maybe, just maybe, because of your tone, he might remember me and have khushu in his heart for me and come back to me. Who? Fir'aun. Meaning what? In Allah's world, there's nobody who's gone so far where there's no point of return. Allah is sending a very clear message to us. That in my world, in my sirat, in my sunnat ilahi, in my world, Allah says, everyone has a fighting chance to come back to me. Hatta Fir'aun, even Fir'aun. But it takes sometimes the lahja of Nabi Musa, the tone of Nabi Musa, to maybe instigate that change. The softening of a hard heart that goes around telling people to worship me, worship me, worship me. Which brings me to my second point. And that is that this commemoration is an inclusive commemoration. What I mean by that is this. That sometimes there are people who come only for these 10 nights. Right? There are people who sometimes only come from the 7th of Muharram. There are people who will only show up on the day of Ashura. And we as people who frequent the mosque all year round, sometimes, I've seen it with my own eyes, sometimes we look at them with eyes of judgment. We even have these nice quirky little labels for them, right? Dustin ki Shia, they say. A 10-day Shia. An Ashura Shia. Right? And those who come to every Shabi Jummah program and every Wiladat and every program, a man walks in that they haven't seen since last Ashura, and these eyes of judgment are all over him. That, oh, look who decided to show up. Look who's here. And I ask you humbly, as a brother and a son of yours who you've met only for 20 minutes now, I ask you humbly, one of the reasons why a lot of people don't come to the mosque is because they feel like they're judged. In every aspect, from the length of their hair, the colors that they wear, the tightness of their clothes, how they walk. And I'm not condoning any of that. But this is that Farsh Azad, this is that commemoration that attracts every single person at all levels. And the reality is that we don't know at what point in their life are they entering this Farsh Azad. We don't know the impact of our tone. If Allah is saying to Nabi Musa that maybe with your soft tone, Fir'aun might melt, then maybe with our soft tone, an 18-year-old who's fighting to find identity might melt. But if that 18-year-old walks in through that door and the first comment he hears is something negative, he'll turn around and walk right back out and tell himself, you know what, I knew coming here was a mistake. Let's be very careful. This is not anyone's Hussein. This is everyone's Hussein. We have companions on the day of Ashura, with all due respect, who had no business being there beside Imam Hussein. Zuhair ibn Qin is one example. This was a man who didn't believe in the Hujjat of the Ahlul Bayt, who believed that Mawla Ali as the 4th Khalifa, had no plans to go to Imam Hussein and join him to Karbala. After Hajj he went, he had one meeting with Hussein ibn Ali, his entire mood changed. And he played a vital role on the day of Ashura. Meanwhile, there were people in Medina who should have been there beside Imam Hussein, and it wasn't there. Look, there are some people who can walk 5 kilometers, there are some people who can walk only 1 kilometer, right? The people who walk 5 kilometers have no business to say, look, you're only a 1 kilometer guy. Don't you dare even attempt to walk. This is not your walk. It's my walk. I'm a 5K walker. You're a 1K walker. There were plenty of 1K walkers on the day of Ashura that were converted to 5K walkers immediately. All because they were beside Imam Hussein. Sometimes the dhikr of this great man is enough to instigate that turning back towards the deen. And there's lots of people in this room who are searching for a path back to the deen. And sometimes with our words we don't understand it. But sometimes we halt that progress. Let me tell you one simple story. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, please. Story I told last year. It's a very powerful story, one that has impacted me quite a bit, has taught me a lot of lessons. There was a Hausa student who was studying in the Hausa in Qom. After a couple of years of studying, he goes to his teacher and says, Ustad, I want to study in Najaf. Back then, Najaf was the markaz of Islamic studies. Anybody who's anybody went through Najaf. Ustad says, sure, go ahead. It's a good idea. Now, it's a talibi, right? He's a student in the house. He doesn't have much money. Life is difficult. Trying to scrape by here and there. So what he decides to do is he decides to attach himself to a qafila, a caravan, that's traveling now towards Najaf for ziyarat. Jumps in on board. Now back then what was norm was that these robbers would wait on the path of this caravan and would pick an opportune time to rob this qafila. So now, lo and behold, he's on his way towards Najaf now with this qafila, and they decide one night to pitch up their tents and spend the night and resume their journey the next morning. In the middle of that night now, the robbers strike. They come and they begin to loot and rob the qafila. Whatever you have, whatever ownings you have, whatever you have in your possessions, put them in front of me one by one. Let's empty out your bags, let's go. All this guy had were his books. That's it. Puts his books inside the middle and moves away. Well, when he's done, the robber, about to leave, a lot of himmat, a lot of courage, the young man now approaches the robber and says, look, in the middle of the pile of your possessions are my books. These books are useless to you. They're ripped up, they're old, they have notes inside them that I wrote with myself. They have no value to you. You'll get nothing from them in the market. Just give me my books back. The robber says, in the distance there's a hill. There's a light there. There's a man standing on that hill. He's my boss. Go and ask him. If he says yes, you get your books back. Now this young man now, with courage now, walks up to this hill. He sees a man, but this man is praying namaz-e-shab. He waits until he's finished and says, excuse me, are you the boss of this operation? He says, yes, I am. He says, well, one of your robbers, your employees, has my books. I'm a student in the house. I'm going to Najaf to study. I want my books back. They're no value of yours. He summons his employee over. He goes, give him his books back. Now, again, he grabs his books, about to go back, but the curiosity is killing him, right? Turns back and says, look, can I ask you something? He goes, sure. On one side, you rob and loot innocent lives, going to send a salam to their Mawla. On the other side, you're praying namaz-e-shab. The boss paused for a moment. Says, no one's ever asked me that question before. The reality is, it's the one thing I do. The only thing I do for God is this namaz-e-shab. I don't sleep at night, right? My business hours are at night, obviously. So I'm up. It's the one thing I do. Sometimes, wallahi, I tell you, we do the same thing. We do one good act, or I do one good act to justify the 10 bad acts that I do. At least I do this. And somehow it cushions the blow of all the mistakes that I make day in and day out. This man was no different. The student said, okay, fine. Grab the books and went to Najaf now. He begins his studies. One day he goes to the Haram of Amir al-Mu'mineen for his ziyarat. And during his ziyarat, he hears this man who's wailing and crying on his knees in front of the dhari of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Goes around the corner, sees, lo and behold, the boss is on his knees in front of the dhari of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Picks him up. He says that, do you remember who I am? I'm the book guy from the qafila. He says, yes. He goes, you're here. He says, your one question Your one question triggered everything inside of me. I'm here to beg Allah for His forgiveness through Amirul Mu'mineen. We don't know sometimes what one sentence and the impact it has on people. Just one. We also have no idea at what stage in their life the people who walk in through that door are at. We don't know. Because the reality is that one thing that we've mastered in 2019 is that we've mastered the idea of putting on a great face. Social media has taught us that my life is perfect. So I have pictures of me on vacation. I got pictures of me and my wife and my husband and my kids and my new car and my new phone and my new house and blah, blah, blah. And we're sitting there saying, wow, this guy's got it made, man. His life is amazing. Look at him. Meanwhile, inside, they're dying inside. There are some people in this room right now who have hit rock bottom. Hit rock bottom, scratching the surface of rock bottom. And they've tried everything throughout the year to somehow numb this pain inside of them. They've tried everything. They've tried to go down the road of drugs to somehow numb it by me getting high. They've tried the route of alcohol. Let me get drunk and numb the pain. They've tried the idea of gambling. Let me kind of consume myself with the casino. I can numb the pain. They've tried everything and nothing ever works. Because what you have now, you have this gaping hole of rock bottom. Then you have this guilt on top of that. Of drugs and alcohol and gambling and womenizing, and the hole gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you fall deeper and deeper in the abyss of depression. Doesn't work. And then it's announced that tomorrow is the 1st of Muharram. And with your broken pieces now, you end up at that door. Knowing full well that I have not set foot in this building since last Ashura. A lot of courage now. This man now parks his car, walks up those stairs, enters the hall. He already feels like every single eye is on me. Waiting for someone to make a comment, waiting for a look, waiting for something, any sound to confirm the fact that I shouldn't be here. Then he walks in through that door, and the first person he sees, let's say, is me, and I make some foolish comment to try to be funny, and every fear of his is confirmed. And he tells himself, I knew I should not have come today. Or the opposite might happen. He might walk in through that door, and the first person he meets is one of you beautiful brothers. And you might embrace him and say, do you know how much I've missed you? Do you know how happy I am to see you? Come sit beside me. Once this guy is done speaking his gibberish, then let's have some tea. Let's break some bread. Tell me about what's been going on. How's your family? How are your studies? How's business? And right away, those fears now begin to remove themselves one by one. I've seen it, and so have you. That one by one, as you break bread and you soften that and you break that wall in front of them, they begin to realize that my solution has always been this Farsh Azab Abu Abdullah al-Husayn. I just went this door and that door and this door and that door, and one by one, every single door slammed themselves to my face. And that door is wide open for me. You want to come? You come. This is not the place for the ma'sumin. This is not the place for the infallible. It's not the place for people who spend all year round in the masjid. No. This is the place where you pick up your broken pieces inside of you and he helps you glue the pieces together. This is the place. Now, if I was to say a comment, or you were to say a comment, or even for a moment judge that someone who walks in and their hair is a bit too long, or they're wearing the wrong color, or they don't even say salam alana to us, or they sit, let's say, way in the back with their legs out. What's he doing here? He's ruining the mahfil and the majlis. He has no etiquette, and that's a different topic altogether. I'm not condoning that behavior. I'm saying you don't know with which umeed and hope people walk in through that door. You don't know. But the idea is that we do. We do come here with the hopes that maybe I might find that spark. and convert that spark to light. Because the reality is that when you hit rock bottom, the first person that you should call is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are people in this room who I know, we all have our struggles, we all have our tragedies. Everyone here can write their own books. There are people right now, like I said, who are going through their own respective tragedy right now. Those tears are right there at the cusp of their eye. Nothing makes sense anymore. The dunya now is a horrible place. Everything is bittersweet. I can't find the courage to get up in the morning, Maulana. That's how difficult life is right now. Nothing right now around me is working. And you come with that destructive nature inside of you, and you come and you enter this majlis. Look, let me give you a very simple example. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, please. I want you to imagine that your phone rings at 4 o'clock in the morning. That 4 a.m. call is never a good call, right? It's never a call where people say, oh look, I found a sick deal of shoes online, go online right now and buy those shoes. That's never a 4 a.m. call. The 4 a.m. call is always, oh my God, what's wrong? At 4 a.m. your friend calls you, you pick up and he is a mess. At 4 o'clock in the morning, he's a mess. He's stuttering, he's fumbling, he's bumbling over his words, he's emotional, he's crying, he's screaming. He cannot make sense of anything he's saying to you. All he's saying to you is that, look bro, I've hit rock bottom. I need you to come and get me from this place. Please follow my example. You're his boy, you're his brother. You get up, you put your pants on, you put your shoes on, and you're out the door. And you go wherever he says to go. And you go and you grab a coffee and you sit there and you listen to him for half an hour, 40 minutes now. He is done now. He's a little bit better. He's a better state. You drop him home, let's say, and you come home. That 4 a.m. call tells you a lot, not about him, but about you and where you are in terms of his life. Correct? You think to yourself, oh my goodness, this brother of mine hit rock bottom. I've never seen him like that, Maulana. I've never seen him lose control like that in my life. And the first person he thought to call was me. Which means what? That I must be very, very near and dear to him. He thought to himself, the one person that could pull me out from rock bottom was you, so I called you. And lo and behold, he was right. You went running like a brother and you pulled him out. Because how we react and what we do when we hit rock bottom is sometimes what our asliyat is, what our reality is. Look at the Quran now, Surah Anbiya. A lot of you, mashallah, are the Ahli Ibadat. You guys recite Namaz al-Ghufayla, do you not? In Namaz al-Ghufayla, the first rakat, we are asked to remind ourselves of the story of Nabi Yunus, the prophet in the belly of the whale, correct? And that moment where Nabi Yunus is in the darkness of the whale, the Quran captures that moment very beautifully. وَظَنُونِيَ ذَهَبًا مَغَاضِبًا فَظَلْنَا عَنَّا نَقْدِرَ عَلَيْهِ فَنَادَى فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنْتَ سُبْحَانَكَ إِنِّي كُنْتُ مِنَ الظَّالِمِينَ. In the darkness of that mammal, Nabi Yunus calls out, doesn't complain to God, God, how could you? How dare you? I'm one of your prophets. These were people who didn't listen to me. Instead of you punishing them, you put me in the belly of this whale. No, he says, Inni kuntum min al-zalimin. It's my fault. If anything, subhanaka, glory be to you. You're worthy of praise. If anyone messed up, it was me. Meaning what? At rock bottom now, his 4 a.m. call is who? Is to God. It's to God. At 4 a.m. it's to God. Allah captures that moment and retells that moment to us. And then goes on to say that we listened to him, we freed him, وَكَذَلِكَ نُنْجِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And we'll do the exact same thing with the believers. Think about it for a moment. A lot of my youth out there, and I see all of you, mashallah, you're beautiful. A lot of you, think for a moment that because I've hit rock bottom, the last person who wants to hear from me is God. And sometimes we're told that, are we not? Sometimes we're told that. By shaitan, by others, that after the night that you had, you have the gall to wake up for Fajr and attempt to pray 2 rakat salat? Really? You think God wants to hear from you? You think that at that moment where you have done this despicable act, you've done something that even you, for you is even bad, and somehow you allowed your nafs to get the better of you. You spent the entire night in sin, and now all of a sudden the adhan's going on and you run towards the masjid? And you think what? Allah is saying, yeah, come. If I were you, shaitan now, if I were you, I would avoid the musalla. I would avoid the ibadat. That's hypocrisy, my man, and Allah does not like the hypocrite. And we begin to convince ourselves that you're right. So now we've convinced ourselves that Allah doesn't want to hear from me, and now because Allah doesn't want to hear from me, I go what? I go here, I go there, I go there, and now what becomes one sin becomes multiple sins. It becomes a lifestyle. Meanwhile, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is waiting for the 4 a.m. phone call. Think about your feeling when you received that phone call at 4 a.m. That if anybody could have rescued him out of this abyss, he thought it was me. It strengthened your bond. It made your brotherhood even stronger. It showed you how much he thinks of you, how much he loves you, how much he respects you. Imagine now, at rock bottom, you call out to Allah. And your 4 a.m. phone call is to God. At rock bottom. Stuttering and mumbling and fumbling and a mess on the musalla. You think God will say, how dare you? You think God will say, how dare you? No. God would say at 4 a.m. at rock bottom, you had this chance to do that act, you had this door to knock on, you had this habit to uphold, you rejected all of that, and you called on to me. What message is that for God? That means that at rock bottom, the first entity he thought about was me. Come on. He'll embrace that. He'll welcome that. Don't let shaitan ever convince you, my youth out there, ever convince you that rock bottom is that place where God hates. I'm not condoning to go rock bottom and then get towards Allah, no. But think about the 4 a.m. phone call. Think about Nabi Yunus. In that darkness, he calls out to Allah, glorifies him, then says, look, I am the one that did dhulm against myself. Allah will take you and say, if you want salvation, my Hussein is that Safinatun Nijah, is that ark of salvation. Come sit on his farsh. Listen to what's being said. Allow the heart to soften. Allow the tears to flow. Grieve for him. And with that softness of the heart now, begin your transformation slowly. But don't think for a moment that I am at the point of no return. If Fir'aun لَعَلَّهُ يَتَذَكُّرُ أَوْ يَخْشَى, if Fir'aun is the one that Allah says maybe, just maybe with your qawlan layyina he could turn back, then there's no Fir'auns in this world, are there? In this room right now, are there? You'll tell me that, Syed, you don't know me, you've never met, you have no idea how my closet is. It's full of skeletons. Doesn't matter to me. No sin is greater than the mercy of your Lord. Remember that. No sin is greater than the mercy of your Lord. In fact, as one alim said very beautifully, the biggest and the greatest of all sins that you could commit is to convince yourself that my sins are greater than his mercy. That's a sin that is great and azim in the eyes of Allah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So my brothers and my sisters, these next 10 nights are monumental for us. On individual and infaradi level, on a social level, ijtima'i level. I ask those who are regulars in this mosque, welcome those who are not regulars. I ask you, my elders especially, embrace the youth. Understand that they are searching for something. They're searching for some hope and some salvation. Let's not be those who turn them away from this dhikr. To my youth, I ask you, You search for solutions for your rock bottom in door 1, in door 2, and door 3. If you want that salvation, that door right now is a door that you need. Come with hope. Come with umid. Come with the energy that Hur came to Hussein. And beg Imam Hussein, and beg Allah through Imam Hussein rather, to what? To fix me, to pull me from rock bottom. I don't wish to be anywhere else. I wish to be here. And let's not push each other away from this moment. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And the miracle nature of this azadari, the miracle nature, many dimensions of it, is the fact that no matter what grief you're going through, we take our drop of grief and we place it in the ocean of Hussein's grief. Doesn't matter what grief you're going through. Every relationship was existing on the day of Ashura and the plains of Karbala. There are some of you who have just recently lost a parent, lost a husband, lost a daughter or a son. There are people in this room who have lost nieces and nephews, uncles and aunts, best friends. Doesn't matter what you've lost or who you've lost or what relation you've lost, you take that grief and you drop it in the ocean of Ashura. If you are somebody who has lost a brother, then take your heart to that moment where Abu al-Fazl Abbas is lying on the plains of Karbala without any arms. Imam Hussein now has placed his head on his lap. He says to his Aqa and Mawla, remove the arrow from my eye. Remove the dirt from my other eye. My mother told me that when I was born, I didn't open my eyes until I saw you. I want to leave this world now looking at you one last time. If you've lost a Javan son, a young son, or a young child, think about that moment when Ali Akbar now is mounted on the horse. He moves towards the Maidan of Karbala and he senses that there's a 57-year-old father stumbling behind him on the horse. He gets down from the horse, embraces his father. Baba, you gave me ijazat. Baba, you gave me permission. And then he says that Ali Akbar, if only you were Sahib Olad, you would know how difficult this moment is for me to lose a son like you. If you are a niece who has lost her uncle, then come to Karbala, that moment that baby Sakina is holding that cup, waiting for Abu al-Fazl to bring water to her. And she sees the alam and she does not see the alamdar, and she runs out to the Maidan and says, Ammu Abbas, your Sakina is not thirsty anymore. If you are a wife who has lost her husband, bring your heart to the days of Arba'in. Rabab is sitting at the grave of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, at the head of Hussein. Baby Zainab says, Rabab, let's go back to Medina now. We're heading back to Medina. And Rabab looks up to Zainab and says, who am I going back to? Tell me, I came to Karbala. Sakina's with me. Ali Asgar's with me. My uncle Hussein's with me. I left Sakina in the Zindan of Sham. I buried Ali Asgar. I'm sitting at the grave of my husband. Who do I go back to? But Rabab, with himmat and courage, goes back to Medina. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to accept this qaleel ibadat, inshallah. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to give us that tawfiq to benefit from the adab of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. I ask you, Allah, please convert the pleasure of sin to the power of worship inside the hearts of our youth. We ask you, Allah, to make us worthy and isqabil of the zuhur of Imam al-Zamana, inshallah, and to make us stand beside him when he comes. Wassalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.